Welcome to a self-published author's diary. I am Elodie Novodatsky. I write about first times, second chances, things that scare the crap out of me, and things that make me laugh out loud. I'll be speaking with you and sharing my adventures in self-publishing, the behind the scenes of writing, and the business side of it. And before we get started today, a small message from our sponsor, Anchor. Thanks for listening. Hello. So I know it's been kind of forever, and by forever, I mean a month, but I had not planned on really taking this long break during the holidays. I mean, in one way, it's kind of like a holiday break, but I didn't plan it. And I'm going to start. Well, first of all, I'm going to wish you a wonderful Happy New Year, because when I'm recording this, it's still January. It's January 30th. And technically in France, which, as you can hear by the accent, if that's the first episode you're listening, is that I'm French. But you can wish a Happy New Year during the entire month of January. So Happy New Year, and I wish you all the very best. So many smiles and laughter and health and love and happiness and just all those happy moments. And all the words. I wish you all the words, the revision, the books you want to write, the books you want to sell, the stories you want to tell. I wish that for you, and the ones you want to read as well. So, as I was saying, it's been a little bit since my last episode. It's been about a month, actually a little bit over a month. And Bobby Voltaire the cat just came down the stairs. I am telling you this because I am trying to record this in one go. But I don't think that Bobby Voltaire will let me do that, because he usually comes down the stairs and then asks me, and by asking I means meows at me, that there he goes, that he wants to go back up. So I am changing a little bit what I'm going to do with the podcast, because I cannot do the podcast the way I was currently doing it, or prior to my not planned break in December. I started by doing the podcast almost 2 times a week. Then I did it once a week. And then I started doing every 2 weeks, publishing a new episode every 2 weeks. However, based on my current schedule, and after taking the HP90 by Sarah Kanan class and realizing, how many blocks of time I have during my week where I can write and when I can try to achieve my goals and everything, I need to give myself more leeway when it comes to this podcast. I have thought about stopping it altogether. But at the same time, I do like talking on my podcast, and I have things to share that I want to share. But what I'm going to do is that I'm not going to hold myself to a schedule. And I know this is not, when you're podcasting, one of the main things that people tell you or what you read before starting is that you really should have a schedule. You should really make sure that, you tell the listeners that you're going to be releasing episodes every week or every 2 weeks or every month even, and then, follow the schedule that you set, which makes sense. I mean, that's what I do with my podcast too. But I also notice something else. I sometimes go weeks without listening to a podcast, and then I go back to the podcast that I enjoy, and I go back to episodes that I want to listen. So, who knows, maybe somebody down in 6 months, a year will still listen to episodes that I published last year or 2 years ago. And maybe I can still share some of what I want to share, but on a more laid back almost way. After all, it's my diary, and when I was younger, I didn't write every day in my diary. I also didn't write every week in my diary. I sometimes wrote and sometimes I didn't. And it's not to say that I don't appreciate you all listening, and I do hope you're enjoying my episodes, but I cannot and will not hold myself to a schedule right now when it comes to the podcast. I will share things that I think are helpful, and also because I've realized there are a lot, it's going to sound very self-deprecating or maybe like but I found out that there are a lot of podcasts that are probably more helpful than mine when it comes to self-publishing. Not that I was trying to be, the most helpful out there, but I've been listening to some podcasts, and I will share them, that are solely dedicated to self-publishing and writing, but more on self-publishing, the self-publishing business. And they are very interesting. They have a lot of interesting information, things that I'm using myself. So, and maybe I should stop editing as much as I do, but if I don't edit, there's going to be a lot of and a lot of misstarts and swallowed words. So like I just did a right now. As mentioned, I've taken the HP90 class with Sarah Cannon, and looking back at my goals and projects, again, this is one reason I'm scaling back. Another reason I have not updated is in so long, actually, because I did want to update at the beginning of January, is that I ended up needing yet another biopsy. It's my 5th biopsy. It was an excisional biopsy, which means it was surgery under full anesthesia. And it took me a bit longer to recover. It was under the armpit. Everything is good. Yay! I'm very, very excited about this. It shows a reactive lymph node, so it does not show any sign of recurrence. So I am still in remission. And I'm so happy and so relieved, and just so everything, because I was doing the HP90 class, which is about, setting priorities and setting projects and making sure you try to find a system that works for you when it comes to organizing yourself. And for me, I'm really enjoying it. But within a week or 2 weeks of starting the class, I found out I was going to need a biopsy. And let's just say that it's very hard to plan when you don't know. I mean, nobody knows, but when you have stuff on your schedule, like a surgery that tells you like, hey, maybe you're going to have to go back into treatment, and maybe, it's harder in a way, I find, to plan. So I'm very lucky and very, very grateful that the surgery showed no sign of recurrence. When it comes to the surgery, it took me a bit longer to recover than what I thought. So the recovery from the biopsy was a bit longer and a bit more challenging than I anticipated. But hey, I can almost put my arm, like my left arm, all the way above my head, which is very exciting because a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't. And due to that, I went back to work and I wrote and I'm publishing and everything. But the podcast was kind of like the thing that I knew I needed to do, but was not the most urgent on my things of lists to do. On my to-do list would be better. So I thought I was going to do a quick recap of what happened in the last month. Kindle Vella is still my main source of income, but I am slowly but surely increasing my income with what I call my Elodie Novodatsky books, which is weird because it's my name. Actually, compared to 2022, I raised my profit so far by 44% without the Kindle Vella bonus. Compare again to January 2022. I'm comparing January 2023 to January 2022. So that's very exciting. I did a free Booksy for Summer Like No Other, which moved hundreds of copies, of free copies, because the Summer Like No Other is perma-free. But so far it didn't pay itself with the revenues for book 2. And this is something I want to do. That's one episode I want to do. I want to give you all the info from the free Booksy. How much did I pay? Did I mention it anywhere else? The answer is no. Did I? Because it's a perma-free and I assume everybody already knows. And I know this is not everybody doesn't know that my book is free, but I did not do any other newsletter at the time. I kind of wanted to see what would happen with free Booksy, and I'm going to wait for about a month after the free Booksy newsletter went out to do a full analysis, because some people, don't read the book right away. Maybe they won't read it, but I want to see what the read-through to Always Second Best is, and if the promotion paid itself with the read-through to the second book. I'm listening to many writing, publishing, authoring related podcasts right now and books. As I say, I go through phases. I had a very big true crime phase when it comes to podcasts, which I still sometimes listen to, but I listen to that way less right now because I'm listening to a lot of writing, publishing, and authoring podcasts, including, as always, Leslie Penelope's podcast, which I highly recommend, My Imaginary Friends, and Becca Syme's Quidcasts, which, again, I'm going to do an entire episode, and by entire, I mean probably a 5 minutes episode on the podcast I'm currently listening to that I recommend. Today is about the newsletters that I recommend, and a little bit of a catch-up with you. I'm about to take one of Becca Syme's class on the strains for writers, and I have started drafting my next rom-com in the Swan's Cove series, which I'm planning to offer as a reader magnet for a limited time before publication. It is up for pre-order right now, and I gave the full disclaimer to my list about them receiving it for free soon, because I do want my list to get that one for free because it's going to be a limited time reader magnet. I know I really need to write that short story for The Leftover Bride as a full reader magnet, one that will only be a reader magnet and will not be for sale. It's on my list of things to do. And something I've been listening to as well and watching are Abby Emmons' videos. She had one with a writing intensive, which was a 2-hour YouTube train ride with sound and pomodoros. And this morning, because I am writing on my newest Swan's Cove book that I just mentioned, which is called Most Eligible Scrooge. I love that title. I love the characters in this book already. And she had one, like a 2-hour writing immersive with a fireplace and Christmas tree, and the music was kind of Christmassy. And I thought that's perfect because I'm writing a Christmas book. So maybe I'll get I'll get inspired. I will link to those resources in the episode's description. So again, like all those things, I could do basically an entire episode, or I could do an episode about each of them, which I might do, but I won't do it probably next week unless I find the time. I'm going to keep this episode short by giving you 3 recommendations of author newsletters that I really, really, really enjoy. The first is Footnotes by Leslie Penelope. Her newsletters are always stoked with information and inspiration, with links about the market and the publishing industry and writing and revising. I really, really, really love it, and I always read it. And it always seems to come exactly when I need it, which is great. So I highly recommend it. The second is Ronnie Lauren's Academy newsletter, which comes with 30-day romance writing prompt challenge. Granted, I'm not doing the challenge as like a challenge per se, so I'm not doing it every day, but I love the prompt. Just reading the prompts every day helps me dig into my characters and give me inspiration for some of the scenes I'm working on. And the third one is Becca Syme's Quidcast newsletter, which is actually called the Better Faster newsletter. And per her website, it says to get the Dear Becca coaching column. Every day Becca gets new emails or comments asking what happens if, and while she might answer a question in one place, not everyone sees it. So Dear Becca was created to answer some of the coaching questions Becca gets publicly in order to help everyone. It's live coaching, only available through the Better Faster newsletter. All the links to those newsletters are also in the episode's description. And of course, you can pre-order Most Eligible Scrooge at your favorite e-retailer. I'm just saying. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your understanding. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. To all the writers out there, happy writing, and to everyone, happy reading.